Today on Locked On Rockies, did the Rockies get snubbed for the All-Star game?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of July in the year 2022. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Let me fix this audio. There we go. Should be better for you now on the YouTube side as we're rocking and rolling here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. And who the heck am I? Well, I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Been following the team my entire life, covering them here on the Locked On Rockies podcast for about season and a half now. And we're bringing it down. We're breaking it all down. I'm wearing my cool guy sunglasses because I lost my glasses while traveling today. So I'm putting on my cool guy impersonation as we talk Rockies baseball. And today on Locked On Rockies, I want to talk about if there were any snubs for the Rockies in terms of All-Stars. Also, we got to talk about last night's game, late heroics. The Rockies seem to have they can come alive late, but they don't have enough to win that crazy game late. However, it is encouraging what we saw last night. So let's dive in. Let's start here. We're going to keep it short, sweet, easy peasy on this Tuesday. But let's dive in. I wanted to ask. I think, of course, as first pitch here is about an hour and change away. Did any Rockies players get snubbed from the All-Star game? And a lot of people are going to sit there and be like, oh, look at this guy. Look at this Rockies host out here saying the Rockies getting snubbed from the All-Star game. What a ridiculous concept. This is a team that is 38-49, 11 games below 500. How on earth would they have anyone more deserving than some of these players from these other teams, than some of these other All-Stars? And to that, I say, that's a pretty good point. That's a pretty good point. I'm just saying, in the world of fan voting, influence there, all that good stuff, I just wonder if some stuff gets lost in translation. Remember, when the first round of All-Star voting happened, CJ Cron was behind first basemen that were winning solely due to their name. Now, there at the top of the list was the Paul Goldschmidts and Pete Alonso's, who are very much deserving to be all-stars and have had great seasons. But Joey Votto has been abysmal for most of the season and was getting more votes than CJ Cron. Now, CJ Cron eventually goes on to be the Rockies representative in the All-Star game, which makes total sense. I mean, when you look at what's happening, and of course, when you look at the starting lineup for the National League, there's no Rockies player, or certainly no one from catcher. That's Wilson Contreras, and these are the starters, by the way. The CJ Cron was not better than Paul Goldschmidt. Brendan Rodgers, if he didn't have April, could be in that conversation with Jazz Chisholm Jr. But Jazz, of course, that April holds Brendan Rodgers back. But just so you're curious here, he's having a heck of a season here. Chisholm is a 254 batting average, 325 OBP, 535 slugging, OPS of 860, 14 home runs, 54 runs, 45 RBIs. Again, Brendan Rodgers isn't having that season. If he was not ice cold in April, that might add on, because currently Brendan Rodgers is a 254 batting average, 308 OBP, slugging 408, OPS of 716 with 8 home runs, 42 RBIs, 76 hits, and 39 runs. There's a strong argument to be made there that Brendan Rodgers is close to this snubbed list. Unfortunately, that April really holds him back. But Brendan Rodgers, outside of that abysmal start, has been a very good baseball player. He's nearly at two. He's nearly got a 2 WAR this season. That's 2 wins above replacement, which is massive, especially when you're looking at what Brendan Rodgers was doing
in the month of April. He has been great. However, just like Joel says in the live chat, Jazz is a ball player. He deserves the all-star call. Absolutely. I'm just, when we're having the conversation and we're just doing for comparison's sake, Jazz is starting. Jazz was first ballot, the number one second baseman voted into the all-star game. And again, let's go over those lines. 254 batting average, 325 OBP, slugging of 535, OPS of 860, 14 home runs, 54 hits, 45 RBIs, 39 runs, and 2.6 wins above replacement here. Baseball Reference, by the way, is what we're going off of here. And again, but just for comparison's sake, let's flip it back over. Brendan Rodgers, 254 batting average, so same batting average, 39 runs, 42 RBIs, 308 OBP, 408 slugging, 716 OPS, 8 home runs, 76 hits with a WAR of 1.9. Now, those are the numbers. The comparison is there between Jazz and Brendan Rodgers when it comes to their offensive capabilities. When we look, there's obviously defense is one thing as well. This so far, 982 fielding percentage there for Jazz over there with 4 errors, and compared to Brendan Rodgers on the other side here, 980 fielding percentage with 7 errors. So again, better defensive statistics there from Jazz as well. Very deserving, but again, you get to see these threads of Rockies players that can make an impact. Let's keep going down the starters. Third base, Manny Machado, no surprise there. Ryan McMahon, first I believe is actually All-Star game, so I don't know about voting. I got confused. This is Jazz's first All-Star game. Manny Machado there at third. Ryan McMahon has not had anywhere close to the year of Machado or Arenado. Trey Turner at shortstop, and same thing there. I think Jose Iglesias has had a special year, but not all-star caliber level. Now let's dive in here. Ronald Acuna Jr., Mookie Betts, and Jock Peterson are the starters for the National League. And of course, all great players. But let's take a look at some stats here for some of them as well and just dive into what they're doing. Mookie Betts continuing to be such a threat, such a dominant force. And it's crazy when you want to compare a 3 WAR of 272 batting average, 60 runs, 46 RBI, 6 stolen bases, an OBP of 347, slugging 543, and an OPS of 891. Man, I have always loved Mookie Betts. And when you see that number and when you see that line, ain't nobody coming close on the Rockies. But I do want to throw out a couple of Rockies outfielders here because, again, one person here. Let's check out some Jock Peterson stats here for this season as well. Jock Peterson is starting the All-Star game with a 256 batting average, 35 runs, 41 RBIs, an OBP of 332, slugging of 529, an OPS of 861, 17 home runs, 41 RBIs, and 57 hits. WAR of 0.6. Is it Jock Peterson yet? Yeah, it's Jock Peterson is starting there. I just want to I get the Petersons crossed. Now, let's compare this to a Rockies outfielder, and I want you guys to guess who this is and tell me who you think is, if these numbers make you think that this is more of an all-star season. 267 batting average, 366 OBP, slugging of 391, an OPS of 757, 82 hits, 5 of them home runs, 43 runs, 21 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases with a win above replacement of 1.1. That's a pretty darn good season. That's a pretty darn good line. And when you compare it to Jock Peterson, it's a better line. If I was to take these two lines, if you're going to offer me the offense of these two players right now, the one thing that is more intriguing, of course, is Peterson's ability to put the ball over the wall. That's what he's supposed to do. However, Connor Joe, the man that I'm talking about here, has made himself a dynamic threat at the beginning of the lineup. And just because Connor Joe isn't hitting the home runs doesn't mean he's not putting himself in a situation to be one of the most effective players at the dish this season. Connor Joe has had a long on-base streak. Connor Joe has had hit streaks. Connor Joe continues to start in just about every game. He bounces around. He can play multiple positions. I think Connor Joe is also on that list of getting snubbed. When Jock Peterson is getting in there just because he hits more home runs and not doing anything else better in terms of offense, that's where you can start having the conversation. It's a fan vote. It's a name. It's San Francisco, and they're a team that's been winning and up until late, but a team that has had a more successful season than the Rockies. Joel in the live chat here says, Jock kind of surprised me a bit. I love his swagger and what he brings to the field, but I didn't think he was having an all-star starter season. Exactly. You can already point to a Rockies player that is having a better season than Jock Peterson in some ways. In terms of WAR, it is a better season. More at bats as well, and more hits, more runs, more RBI. The big thing about Jock Peterson is he's a run-generating machine. He hits those home runs and he has the RBIs. But Jock Peterson's role in the lineup versus Connor Joe's role in the lineup are two completely different stories. Now, let's compare this to someone who's kind of been slugging a little bit more and also could potentially, I think, this one's a little bit more of a stretch, but I think Jock Peterson as our benchmark is a good person to compare to, especially when Jock Peterson is starting the All-Star game as an outfielder. And I'll tell you about that player in just a second. But before I do that, got to tell you about our friends at Built.com. From the people who invented healthy and tasty come the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the puffs treatment. That's right, the coconut brownie chunk Built bar. Flavor you love in a delicious, chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness, but stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to Built.com right now so you don't miss out. You can also see all the macros there for yourself at Built.com, so you know what you're getting into when you're cracking open a box of those coconut brownie chunk Built bar puffs. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order right now at Built.com. So the player I was talking about to compare to, who could potentially get placed into that all-star game snub category, it's Chuck Nasty. Charlie Blackmon, when we're talking about people who have surprised this season, Charlie Blackmon has been a really, really, really bright spot for the Colorado Rockies. Obviously, he's not blowing anyone away, but he's contributing. He's coming up big in massive situations, and we're seeing some improvements right now. He's just below his season average of last year. He finished the season last season with a 270 batting average. He's right there at 268. He's right around where he was. He's a little behind where he finished the season last year, but there's still tons more baseball to be played, and he's tied his home run total from last year already. He's also almost matched his triple total. He's gonna pass doubles, I bet you. 25 doubles last year, 16 doubles already for Charlie Blackmon this year. He has been really, really good for the Rockies. And again, Charlie Blackmon's overall, and again, another thing that you could lump Charlie Blackmon into too would be DH for part of this, but we're comparing to Jock Peterson's 0.6 WAR line of 256 batting average, 332 OBP, slugging of 529, OPS of 861, with 57 hits, 17 of them for home runs, 41 RBIs, and 35 runs scored. Now, flip it to Charlie Blackmon. Currently, 0.9 WAR, 83 hits for a 268 batting average, 321 OBP, slugging of 465, OPS of 786, and 13 home runs, 44 runs, 47 RBIs in 310 at-bats, 83 hits as well. More hits than Peterson, more appearances than Peterson, more RBIs than Peterson, one less stolen base. Peterson might have some of he has got those advanced metrics on Charlie Blackmon, but again, Charlie Blackmon has more at-bats than him and is still pretty darn similar to that line that we're seeing from Jock Peterson. So if Jock Peterson is the third starting outfielder in the All-Star game, I'm pretty sure we can safely sit here and say that Charlie Blackmon and Connor Joe were snubbed from the All-Star game. I think that Connor Joe and Charlie Blackmon have an argument to say that they are as much as an all-star as Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's home runs and Jock Peterson's run generation is one thing. Yeah, absolutely. But Charlie Blackmon is second in the Rockies in terms of home runs. He's basically the second half of the offense so far this entire season. He's got the 40. He's got more RBIs than Jock Peterson. Really, Jock Peterson has has more points in the batting statistics, but Charlie Blackmon is only 4 home runs behind Jock Peterson, has more hits than Jock Peterson, and has played more than Jock Peterson has played this year. And I know there might be other players in the league that you might be able to pierce in that might have gotten snubs, but I'm talking Colorado Rockies players specifically with arguments to be snubbed. And Connor Joe and Chuck Nasty have 2 really, really solid cases right now. This year, if you could take Jock Peterson or Connor Joe, who would you take? And there's a lot of people that are going to say Jock Peterson. Most people are going to take Jock Peterson because of that home run pop. Rockies fans, people that follow the Rockies, people that watch this team, that's not going to be the case. I think, and a lot of people will look at it and dive into and say, on my team, I think Connor Joe would be the better fit. We don't need the power bat. So if I could have Connor Joe be the dynamic leadoff guy, is that more valuable to my team? Now, you can, we're talking outfield here too. Connor Joe, we've seen in his defensive abilities there at first base, not so great. But we're seeing, this year Peterson split in time between the outfield and DHing. So that's a big thing too. But played some pretty error-free, 2 errors on the season so far. Pretty darn good fielding percentage there for every fielding position he's played so far this season. I think it's just the 1 error. Is this the combined outfield stats right here on baseball? Yeah, I think so. So just the 1 error, 987 fielding percentage this year. So Jock Peterson's been good in terms of defense for the Giants as well. But so has Connor Joe, who has played error-free baseball in the outfield. Error-free baseball. 1,000 fielding percentage on 96 putouts and on 100 chances. So it's kind of right there. If Jock Peterson is good enough to start the All-Star game, so is Connor Joe. If Jock Peterson is good enough to start the All-Star game, so is Charlie Blackmon. I think that there is plenty of a strong argument to be made there. I'm curious what you all think. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let us know here at LO Rockies on the Twitter sphere. Now let's talk about the game. Actually, I got one more Rockies player that should also have been in the mix for the All-Star game, and I'm going to tell you about that player in just a second, but I got to tell you about the MVPs and the All-Stars at rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the computer orders the parts in their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You got computers, you got a cell phone, you got access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket, so use it, and you're going to save time and money when you do so. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Hey, right, Locked On Rockies. Just because I know you Rockies fans are great out there. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. That's rockauto.com. Joel says, I wonder how much Jocktober from last year influenced his pick for this year. He was clutch for the Braves last year, and he still got the clutch, hitting big home runs and diving into and scoring the runs that Jock Peterson does, and the big home run threat that he is adds to that clutchness. The Rockies would love to have another person that's close to 20 home runs on their team this year and hits the long ball. The Rockies would love to have a Jock Peterson. But if we're going for all-star game, starting all-star game, that's an extra even element on top of it. You can't leave out two Rockies outfielders that have played good ball, really good ball, especially on offense. Connor's mullet and Chuck's beard beats Jock's pearls all day in the swagger department. Absolutely. I would say the Rockies got a good, when they're playing winning baseball, the Rockies have a good swag around them as well. And a Rocky that has had a good swag around him this year, and actually someone that I have been very impressed with this season, Daniel Bart, another player that you could argue should be on the All-Star game roster. He's someone that has been lights out dominant at times. He's had some issues, sure, but he's also been really good. He's had long stretches of not giving up runs, 2.20 ERA, a 1.7 WAR here over 32 innings. He's got 18 saves this season, 40 strikeouts, a whip of 1.071. Daniel Bard had, and let me be abundantly clear. People that have listened to this podcast know that I said Daniel Bard should not be the closer for this team this year. I said that. And instead, he has gone out to be not only a great closer, but one of the best options out of the pen for the Rockies, and someone who his story now continues to get better because this is a good season. Daniel Bard was good last year, has always been good. Of course, we've seen flashes of great. We've seen flashes of intense frustration and disappointment, but this year has really cemented, and I got to wonder for him, especially in his journey back to where he is, this has got to feel like he's back in it and he belongs, and he's with the team that he likes, a team that likes him, and that's leading to some success. Again, there's a lot of good pitchers that made the roster here. Sandy Alcantara, David Bednar, Corbin Burns, Luis Castillo, Edwin Diaz, Max Fried, Tony Gonsolin, Josh Hader, Ryan Helsley, Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, I mean, I guess he was really good for a bit. That's not true. I can't say that he was really good this year. Joe Manaply for Arizona, Joe Musgrove there. All of these have been incredible pitchers this year. I just think that if we're talking potential snubs, potential Rockies players that could have made an argument there, that could have been a threat, I think Daniel Bard would have fit that mantra again, because I really think he's had a great, pretty darn solid year, and he's really it's up and down, but this is a year where I think he has been the most consistent Daniel Bard that the Rockies have gotten since his time with the team. We have gotten the best Daniel Bard that we've seen so far in his time in purple, and I think he would be. I'm hoping, if something comes up, if they need some alternates there for some arms, I'm hoping that he might be on the list of Rockies getting the call. But yeah, so there's my four Rockies that had a case to be in the big game, because again, that record is tough, but there have been Rockies players that have shined and shown that there are good players on this team. It's, again, the consistency and getting it all together. Again, if you missed it all, the four players we talked about were Brendan Rodgers, Connor Joe, Charlie Blackmon, and Daniel Bard. Those would be my four Rockies that got snubbed from the All-Star game. If you're looking for Rockies snubs from the big game there, but CJ Cron is going to do a great job representing the Rockies as well. Quick notes on the game from last night. The Padres snapped their 10-game losing streak at Coors Field. It's a bummer, kind of inevitable, though, especially with the way they got. It was good to see the Rockies continue to stay in games late. I think that might be a sign that the Rockies are going to break through on some of these, but eliminating multi-run leads and getting it close at the end there is a nice sign. It's kind of what you got to take from some of these games. The Rockies' contention window continues to shrink with every single loss. It's pretty safe to say that the path to the wild card is, I don't want to completely count it out yet, but it's there. But if you can steal these games, if you can win these games late, that's going to be a massive, massive boost for your club going forward, especially a team that you've been able to take down and you've been able to beat in the San Diego Padres. They match up again here today. Gomber is getting the start. Clevenger on the bump for the Padres. The 50-38 Padres, the 38-49 Rockies. The two different seasons, two different tales there. Here we will see it's his third start for Austin Gomber since returning to the rotation. See what that means for the Rockies tonight as they match up with the Pods. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, especially there, Joel, in the live chat, and all of you listening on your favorite streaming service. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube. Every single podcast, you can find us at Locked On Rockies on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at LO Rockies. I'm Paul Holden. You can follow me at Paul Holden33. Yes, I do normally wear normal glasses, but I lost them. So I'm going cool guy streamer shades for a bit. I'm a cool podcaster guy with my cool sunglasses on. But hopefully the Rockies cruise to a victory here, get themselves back into a split opportunity with the Padres. You want to win the game tonight if you can. You don't want to go down 2 and have to win 2 in a row here if you're trying to look for the split. Win tonight also sets you up in a position for a series win if you can string together another solid home series against the Padres. Now that you made Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day, you had a great, you all tuned in big time to Lindsey Crosby there for our Locked On MLB Prospects crossover. So why not go watch the show and stay up to date with all things MLB Prospects over there with Lindsey and everything going on Locked On MLB Prospects. You can also stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and, of course, the Locked On Rockies podcast. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies